Well, good morning. This is your professor again, reaching out to you to bring ethics back into the fore, right? I know you're working on your midterms, but I wanted to go over three cases that I'm personally acquainted with and well acquainted with, actually, regarding ethics and in the accounting profession. I told you before, ethics can take you to very high places in life or to very low places in life, depending upon you. Paper one, I returned to each and every one of you because you weren't digging deep enough. Most of you weren't. There were only two or three that kind of came real close, but your action plans for everyone were too aspirational and not concrete. You were not dealing with your biases and your weaknesses. So we're going to talk about three cases today that I know well, and one of which I'm currently consulting, and that I cannot give you too many details, such as names, locations, but I can go over the facts with you, as well as the allegations, of course. First case here on the screen, I want you to see this gentleman here in this picture with his wife in the green coat. I'll put it on a larger screen if you could see it. To the right in the overcoat is Felix. To the left is his wife. Felix Ayala was a student of mine, and he's a Maryland accountant. And in 2017, he was indicted and I believe convicted of bribery, of bribing a Maryland senator. And he is Central American. He had applied for a federal or state grant to help Central American youth through educational programs. Very admirable, very good cause. However, part of the allegations and later conviction got him for kicking back $5,000 to the politician. Now, I know Felix, good accountant he is. He had his own firm in Maryland. It was a shame what happened. I try to look at things holistically, as you know, and through a critical lens. I don't drink anyone's Kool-Aid, nor should you, as a critical thinker. Always be skeptical. That's what our profession demands of us, actually. It's a requirement if you're an auditor in particular. SAS 99, for those of you that would like to look it up. At least that was the old codification reference. In Felix's case, I believe the politician was already being investigated. That's a suspicion on my part for other kickback schemes. I think the politician plea bargained and threw Felix under the bus. Now, what's interesting is that the politician is of the same Latino culture. And being Italian, I understand the Latin culture. It might be a Mediterranean thing, but we typically like to thank those who help us by gifts. We might bring them token gifts. We may attend the weddings or the ceremonies of their family and bring cash gifts. We don't think anything of it. It's a thank you. It's a recognition of our professional relationship that should be beneficial to both parties, both professionally and personally. That's how we view it. We view it as a real bond. Well, unfortunately, taken to an extreme, that becomes corruption, right? At least that's how the Anglo-Saxon world, we view it, okay? And when I mean we, those of us that play in that system, I mean, you got to understand the rules. You might not like them, you might not totally agree with them, but the rules are the rules. basic argument would be, hey, if you didn't pay the kickback, you wouldn't have gotten the grant. The grant could have gone to some other good organization that might have merited it based upon not paying the kickback. Okay, we get it. My question for you, could culture have played an impact here? Could the cultural differences of these gentlemen who were born in a different country, raised a different way, come here to the States? Did they just not get the memo kind of thing? What do you think was Felix's ethical framework? I'm going to ask you that. What framework was he working under in trying to help students? Or would you say he was in it for himself? I'm going to ask you, because in each of these cases, I'm going to give you an opportunity to earn extra credit, 2 points per case. I want to reward those of you that watch my videos and put up with my droning. Okay, I'm sorry about it, but I'm actually trying to teach you, believe it or not, and not to be mediocre either, to be successful. What safeguards did Felix not have? What did he kind of lose sight of that got him into this problem? Okay? I'll go to my second example. And the second example is a former student of mine. I'm sorry, former colleague. He worked for me. Elias Castellanos, you can see him here. And when you look at Elias here, oh, sorry, let me go to a share screen. I've got to see about, here we go. When you see Elias here, former KPMG manager, and we hired him at HUD as my deputy, and he's brilliant, extremely intelligent, articulate, excellent writing. I mean, he was the total package. Plus, he was good looking like me because he had no hair, right? I mean, total package, this guy. I had him over the house for dinner. I mean, my kids liked him, my wife, we all like, and I still do. He's still, in my opinion, like Felix, a good man, good person. Well, while he was working for me, there was another woman who worked for me too. And she was married to a State Department official, and they had a home in Aspen, Colorado, or somewhere out in Colorado. She drove an expensive car, like a Lexus at the time, impeccable dresser. And beautiful jewelry. I mean, real gold, silver. I mean, nothing costume about this woman. And Elias, through her, began dating her sister. Well, they were going to be married. Elias decides to move back to Florida. He leaves the government. And to my surprise, HUD gave him a contract within 2 or 3 months of leaving. And the plot thickens. I'm not going to digress much, but I brought to the attention of senior management that this contract was inappropriate because there's a cooling off period as a federal employee of at least 2 years if you're at a certain grade level before you can re-engage on issues that you were primarily involved in. He might have gotten an ethics clearance somehow. I don't know if he did. I was never told. Well, let me tell you, what they did to me was pretty much not the central part of this story, but I got crucified for upholding ethics. But I did it so willingly, and I'm happy and I'm proud to say that I did it. I questioned it. They blew it off. They took me from my role They transferred me. They took my 60 people team away from me. My so-called friends at work, very few that I did have, I guess, wouldn't even have lunch with me or sit with me anymore. My one deputy, like me, a former Marine, he was with me all the time. Gary stood by my side. Ben Greenberg, another great guy, stood by my side because they knew I was right and I stood for the right thing. So most of the people who knew me were okay, but the so-called colleagues and peers from other departments, they stayed away. But back to Elias. He went down, became the New Orleans housing CFO, and he began an embezzlement scheme using time cards, using consulting contracts that evidently he wrote for his wife, and they embezzled about $1 million. When he got caught, he had fancy cars like Ferraris and Lamborghinis, and to make a long story short, he got convicted and sent to prison for 4 years, and he had to pay back all that he stole. Now, in his case, what could the outside pressure have been? I believe it was his wife wanting to compete with her sister. Because until then, Elias seemed like a normal dude, just like us, normal, okay? He was not into materialism. The way he dressed, he was a normal guy. He would even bring his lunch in from home, I think. So something changed. So let me ask you now, for your extra credit, what core value do you think he did have? And which core value or values did he violate because of this pressure? And I'm confident it was because of the new marital situation. So think about it, and you can get up to 2 points. The last case I want to talk to you about, I'm not going to give you explicit details of where it happened and who's involved, but I've consulted with this individual, former CFO of a real estate development company. I've kind of camouflaged the industry too. And what she did was, as CFO, she managed a portfolio, pretty extensive. And part of the issue here was they worked on a tight budget. So she had to do a lot of multitasking. Part of it was she was in charge of accounts payable and payroll, as well as being the CFO, okay? So what happened here was that she had an understanding with her CEO that he would bonus her out each year or every month. Actually, it was on a monthly basis. He would bonus her out for any out-of-pocket expenses that she may have incurred on behalf of the company, as well as just giving her a performance bonus. And the way he did it, and this is all verbal, was he said to her, look, just put on your timesheet, you worked an extra 20 hours, whatever, to come up with the $5,000 or so monthly that he was bonusing her out, reimbursing her and bonusing her out, because she was really multitasking. And I know she was working 60-hour weeks easily, and then on weekends, just focused on the accounting, focused on the financial situation. Well, what happened in this case, this mutual understanding went on for several years, or for at least a year or two. The firm began experiencing some liquidity problems, only because the owner would say to this individual, hey, let's have a luncheon today. I want to buy lunch for the staff. And she would say, well, we got to order it. And like, it may have already been like 11 o'clock, right? So she didn't have time to do paperwork. So she went out to find a local caterer. It could have been like a Panera, a World Market, or a Whole Foods. And she put the order in on her credit card, had the food come in, took care of that. And that was part of the reimbursement scheme through the payroll that they were supposed to pay her back. Well, this kind of then evolved into office supplies, maintenance. She got into this habit of not doing the paperwork and just getting reimbursed, putting it on her card. Part of the rationalization was, I'm getting points on my card too. Whoa, okay. That's another thing, right? Well, what happened was she had a falling out with the CEO. Not sure exactly why. As I understand it through the consulting that I've done with her, is he was hiring illegal immigrants, undocumented workers, and exploiting them in a way by not paying them a fair wage, not taking payroll taxes. And I think she started feeling the heat because he was engaging in more of this shadow payroll type situation. And I think she was realizing, a CFO, man, I owe state payroll taxes on this, state income taxes, federal payroll, federal income. I'm looking at some serious issues. She broached it with him, and evidently they had a disagreement. So what does he do? He brings in another CFO, fires her, has the new CFO look at records, which he knew were there. And this new CFO calls the police department, files a report alleging that this person embezzled $50,000. The police begin an investigation. They subpoena bank records. They coincidentally find that this client of mine had cosmetic surgery done. They put two and two together. They go out with a headline, make some outlandish claims, pretty much defamation. No validity or nexus to the fact that surgery, whether it was cosmetic or not, was tied to the embezzlement. Nothing. There's no proof there. It's just allegations. But the problem, since this case is still ongoing, it's not yet resolved, there's a potential for prison time and restitution, or one of the other, if not both. In this case, do you think the accountant, the CFO, what did they do wrong? What ethical framework were they operating under? What core values did they potentially not have or violate? And what primary safeguard or internal control did the CFO violate? We all know this as auditors, right? How should she have protected herself, in other words, too? For example, small nonprofits, you can't have segregation of duties, but there are compensating controls. What should she have instituted to document what was an agreement? Okay. And what do you think? Should a CFO, knowing that a company is engaging in legal activity, do anything about it? Okay, so these are 3 case studies, 2 of which you can go online, public record, and review. The third one, again, is still in the middle of litigation, so we're not going to divulge those details. But you know enough now of the backstory. So, 2 points for each case. Felix Ayala, what was his ethical framework? Can you define it? Did culture play a role, possibly, in his miscalculation? And what safeguards were missing in his case? With Elias, my former deputy, went to prison for 4 years. What core value was either non-existent or did he violate? Could the outside financial pressure and fact that he wanted to impress his new wife have been a factor for him to throw away his career? The third case, was it a frame-up job? Was it retaliation and retribution for a CFO who finally realized we're hiring illegals, we're exploiting people who shouldn't be exploited as human beings? In each of these cases, I want you to realize these are good people. I know all 3. I hired one. I taught one. Now I'm consulting for one. And you get to know people. You all believe you're good people, but you have a price. And don't tell me you don't. And I know because I have a price too. Don't delude yourself. Sooner or later, you're going to hit an ethical roadblock. And I'm going to be in your head telling you, do what's right. And that doing what right is might not be fighting. In most cases, it's walking away from the fight. That's my advice to whistleblowers and people caught in dilemmas. Get out. Just get out. But if you're going to take up the fight, you better call me, at least for some casual advice or wisdom. Be mindful that the legal profession is not necessarily what you think it is. Whether it's the government or your defense attorney, seeking the truth is often extremely expensive and painful. So it typically happens, settlements occur, plea bargains occur, and you are left almost as wreckage at the end of the day, financially, psychologically, even spiritually. Don't play those games, please. As my students, I don't know you personally, but I care about you. Don't allow what happened to Felix, Elias, and this other person happen to you. Don't get blindsided. Don't lower your standards. You will have until Wednesday night to get the extra credit. Okay? You have any questions, you can call me. As one of you said yesterday, Professor, when I first met you, he basically was saying he didn't like me. That's fine. He said, but now I know where you're coming from. He said, you're tough, but you're fair, and you care about us. And I do. I really do. All right? So listen, I'll sign off. Have a good weekend. I'm sorry you got to take a midterm, but like I said, you signed up for the class. I didn't. I'm just teaching it, you know? So we'll work with you folks. If you work with me, I work with you. There's only one type of person I don't deal well with, and you know what kind of person that is. Take it easy.